In this complete MERN Stack project tutorial, we are going to build and deploy a fully functioning social media application using the MERN Stack. That is MongoDB, ExpressJS, ReactJS, NodeJS, and we are going to use Cloudinary for our file storage. We are going to use Socket.io as well for our real-time communication. That is going to be for our chat system, which is going to be included in this entire social media application. And finally, once we are done with the application, we are actually going to deploy it and make it available on the internet, and we are going to host it on Hostinga. So without wasting any time, let me actually walk you through the finished project. To use the application, of course, you have to be registered. So once any user comes to the website, you have to go to the sign up page to actually register. Okay, so let's register Daniel Vignon, okay, who is not in the system. So let's have Daniel at Gmail, come on, gmail.com. And if I try registering without filling in the passwords, I get filling all fields. And these error messages are actually coming from the backend. Okay, so we're actually going to create everything by ourselves. Okay, we are not going to use any authentication or authorization system or service like Clerk or anything like that. We are going to make sure we create everything by ourselves. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some password for Daniel. So I'm going to do Daniel123 for the password. And for the confirm password, Daniel123. Now, if I add 4 here, notice the passwords do not match. Okay, so if I try registering, I get passwords do not match. Okay, I can of course go ahead and show the passwords, and you can see that these two passwords do not match. Okay, so I'm going to remove the 4 here. And also, if I go ahead to change the email to a user who is already registered with this email, let's see what happens. Okay, I have achiever@gmail.com already registered. So if I try registering, I get email already exists, right? But I do not have daniel@gmail.com. So now, since we have valid info in all the fields, if I try registering, we are redirected to the sign-in page, meaning we were able to register an account. So let's go ahead and actually log in. Daniel@gmail.com, that's the email. And here too, of course, we have the check and making sure that we are not entering any empty fields. So let's add a password. And if I type a random password, of course, invalid credentials, right? And this is the password I just typed right here. So now Daniel123, that's the password we had for the sign up. So now I've been redirected to the main page or the home page, which means I have been able to actually sign in. All right, so here I can see that we have some suggested friends and all that, but let's go ahead and explore everything about the user first, and then we'll go on to actually create posts, message and bookmark and all that. Okay, so of course here in the profile page, this is the profile page. I have no following, I have no followers, and I can go ahead and actually have a bio. This is my bio, and I can actually go ahead and add an emoji here just for fun, and I can add something to the to the name, and I'm going to register or update rather. And you can see that Daniel Vignon has been updated. Okay, the bio here has been updated as well. Okay, now we can go ahead and actually follow some people. So I can go ahead and actually follow Sky Blue, and Sky Blue has been followed. I can actually click to go to the person's profile, and we have Agnes Asamoah. I can follow that person here, and we can actually unfollow as well if we want. We can message the person right here as well, but right now I just want to follow the person. Okay, we are going to explore the messaging system or the chat system as well later on, but yeah, that's it. Now let's go ahead and actually let me follow a couple of people as well. I'm going to follow Ernest Achiever, right? I'm going to follow Dinah Aye as well. Now back in the profile page, I can actually go ahead and update my profile picture. So I can just use anything for the profile picture, really. What can I really use here? I can use anything really. I'm going to use this guy as the profile. Actually, I'm going to use this person right here as the profile picture. So I'll just hit, and as you can see, that has been updated successfully. And so yeah, I think that's all for the profile page right now. Now let's go ahead and actually come back to the home page. Here we can, of course, we can be able to create posts, but first of all, let's go ahead and explore what we can do with others' posts. Of course, we can go ahead and like people's posts. Okay, so we have liked a post here, and we can actually go ahead and leave a comment. So we have a comment here, and since I'm the creator of the comments, I have this delete button here, and I can actually go ahead and delete this comment as well. Okay, so that has been deleted, and let's come back here. You can see we still have only the 3 comments. Right now, of course, I can bookmark some posts right here, and if I come to the bookmarks, you can see that this post has been bookmarked. Now I can unbookmark it or remove it from my bookmarks, and you can see it's been removed. Now if I come back, it is being removed from the bookmarks page as well. Now I can actually go ahead and search posts as well. Okay, so I can go ahead and search posts. I can search using the content. Okay, so I can just type anything. For instance, this post right here has foods in it. And so once I start typing, you can see that only this post shows up. Okay. And so there is a whole lot that you're going to learn in this project. Now let's go ahead and actually create, a post here. And I'll say, hi, I'm Daniel. And this is my first post. I'm going to choose an image for this post. I just use, what should I even use, man? Just use this orange, and I'll post, and we have our post. Okay, I can go ahead and like. You can see just 5-6 seconds ago, I can go ahead and actually leave a comment on my own post. This is my own comment on my own post. I can of course bookmark, and when I come to the bookmarks, I should have that. Okay, I can of course remove that from the bookmarks and actually remove the like as well, and as you can see, it is gone. Okay, there is no like. There is the comment, but there is no bookmark as well, or it is not being bookmarked. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me actually go ahead and create another user so that we explore the the chat system as well. So I'm going to go ahead and register another user. I'm going to call this person BabyJet. So baby at Gmail, come on. So that will be 1 2 3 1 2 3. Let me make sure the passwords do match. And if you don't know BabyJet, that is a Samojan. And so yeah, he's been registered in the system, so we can go ahead and log in at gmail.com. 1 2 3, that's password, and boom, it's been logged in. Okay, so here we can actually follow a few people here as well. Right, I can follow an achiever as well here, and it's been followed. I can actually remove some of these as well. Okay, if I want, I can change the theme as well. The primary color, I can change it, and this is actually going to persist in the local storage. Okay, so whenever I come back to the website or to the application, this theme that I chose is going to persist. It's going to be the same theme that remains here. Okay, I can change to a blue primary theme. Of course, I can change the background as well. So now we have a dark theme throughout the application. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually change the, let's change the thumbnail, the profile picture for Samojan or BabyJet. And what even suits him here? I don't know, man. I think this guy looks like him, so let's choose that. And as you can see, we have the avatar or the profile picture for BabyJet. All right, now what else do I need to do here? I just want to make sure I am showing you everything. I mean, I'm not going to be able to show you everything, but at least the main things. Now here we can actually filter the following. Okay, so we can click this to see only the people that we are following, their posts. Okay, the posts of the people we are following, and we can click this to fetch all posts on the or in the application. All right, now let's go ahead and actually create a post here, I think. Or would I be? I don't think that would be necessary. Okay, but yeah, I think that is it. Now let's see how the chat system also looks like. So I'm actually going to open another tab, and I'm going to log in as Daniel. Okay, I'm going to log in as Daniel at gmail.com. So Daniel 123, that was the password. We've been logged in, and BabyJet is here, so I'm going to follow BabyJet. And I can actually, you know what, let me go back to this, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Daniel's profile. I'm going to follow him. I do not have to follow him, but I'm just going to follow him. He has no followers, so I've given him a follower, and I'm going to message him. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say, hi Daniel, and as you can see, we have hi Daniel. Okay, so I can tap this conversation and actually have some chat with BabyJet right here. So hi Jet, and if I go ahead and submit this and we check, you can see that we have hi Jet. Okay, so we can go ahead. Wait a minute, do I have? Okay, so this actually, okay, so there's Daniel who is chatting BabyJet, and there's BabyJet chatting Daniel. Okay, so yeah, so we can go ahead and actually send more stuff. We can add emojis and all that, and I'm going to send, and once I hit it, you can see that comes instantly. Okay, so I'm going to type any gibberish here just so we see that this actually works, and this by using socket.io. Okay, so this also comes instantly, right? And I'm going to type in more text here, and once I hit enter, boom, that is here. Okay, so this is what we are going to build in this project, and I hope you are ready to learn. Now I'm going to log in as Achiever. Of course, I can log in as anyone else, but I just want to log in as Achiever right now because I was done with the demo, but I just wanted to show you one more thing. Of course, we have the full CRUD functionality for posts as well. Okay, so here, since I'm the creator of all these posts, now if I come to the home page, you can see that I do not have the option to actually click to be able to edit or delete any of the posts, right? But if I come to my profile, I have the option to click here to actually be able to delete or edit any of my posts, right? So I can click to edit this post, and I'll just say this post has been edited, and I'm going to spell this so wrong. Yep, so I can update it, and it's been instantly updated. Okay, I can like my own post, of course. I can go ahead and add the comments as well. This is another comment from me. I can even add more and add emojis if I want. I also can go ahead and actually delete this post as well, so I can go ahead and delete it. Okay, now notice one more thing in the back end. Okay, so if I come to the project, let me show you something real quick. In the back end, you can see that we have an uploads folder, right? And in here, you can see we have some files, which are the images that we uploaded in this demo. Okay, now you are going to ask yourself, then how about the other images in the application? And these are actually coming from Cloudinary. Okay, every image in the application is coming from Cloudinary. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to work with Cloudinary. And the images here are first saved in here in the uploads folder before uploading them to Cloudinary. And from there, Cloudinary actually gives us a secure URL that we can use in our application. So I can actually go ahead and delete these, and our application is still going to work. So that is what I want to show you. And of course, the theme here, of course, I can go ahead and actually change it as well. Okay, and everything should be working perfectly. And also, one thing I want to show you is in here in the Mongoose database. This Mongoose MongoDB Atlas, sorry. And in here, you can see that everything we are doing is being stored here in the database. Okay, so we have our comments collection, conversations collection, messages collection, post collection, users collection, and all that, right? So you can see some of the comments that I just added. You can see we have the users that I just added, right? So everything, this baby jet, this Daniel Vignon, and if I come to cloud, I have to log in. But basically everything is as I said, right? So I am ready to teach you everything that you see in this application. So if you're ready, just sit back, relax, and make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video. All right, let's get started.
Let's go ahead and set up our hosting and domain name. And having used or having worked with many hosting providers, the one that I always recommend for everyone is Hostinger. Now, in the description of this video, you are going to find a link that's probably the first link that's going to bring you to this page. And that's an affiliate link that's going to give you the best deal for your hosting purchase. Okay, so go ahead and then click that link. That's going to bring you to this page. And if you visit this page and the design is a little different, that's because it changes from time to time, right? So this Hostinger, let's go ahead and then check out some of the hosting web hosting packages that they have. And right here is their premium shared hosting. Okay, so for only $2.80 per month, you are going to have, or you are going to be able to host 100 websites. They give you 100 gigabytes of SSD storage, as you can see here. Free weekly backups. They give you free domain name. How cool is that? For most of the hosting providers, you actually buy the domain name separately. Okay, here they give you a free domain name and a free email as well. So they give you a bunch of other stuff that are very cool and very helpful as well. Right, so this is a perfect deal for me. I'm going to go ahead and then click add to carts. And as I said, make sure you use the link in the description to get the best deal on Hostinger. All right, so this is very affordable. So I'm going to go ahead and then use the 48 months. Okay, and that's going to give me the best deal. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then enter my email. Right, so that's my email. I'm going to use PayPal. As you can see, my total is $133. Okay, now I have a coupon for you. Okay, and this is the best coupon on Hostinger. Go ahead and enter the coupon code EGATOR. Okay, this right here, enter that and apply and see what you get. You get 10% discount. So that is a very cool deal, and this is a very reliable hosting. That is why I went ahead and then got you this very important deal. All right, so we are going to go ahead and submit our secure payment. All right, so after the payment, make sure you check out your email to finish up everything, confirm your email and all that. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then log in. So right here, I just logged in and I'm going to go ahead. As I said, they give you a free domain name, so you can go ahead and then claim the domain. Okay, which is really cool. On most platforms or with most hosting providers, you actually have to buy the domain name separately, which will cost you probably $10 or more, right? So the domain name I'm going to buy is dummy EGATOR, and I'm going to use the .com. Okay, so let me quickly check if that's actually available, and it is. Okay, so let's go ahead. As you can see here, that would cost me $14, but here they are giving it for me. They're giving it to me for free, which is really, really cool. Let's go ahead and then claim this domain name. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but they give us a free SSL as well. So let's go ahead and install that. Yep. And that's installing. And that's going to make sure every traffic on the website is secure. All right. So now let's proceed to work on the project.
Right here, I'm going to go ahead and let me actually close these files. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead into my profile page right here, and yeah, I'm actually going to return a section. I'm not going to give it any class, and I'm going to have a component in here. Okay, so let me have user profile component. So user profile.jsx RAFCE, and we have this. So that's the component I want to have here, user profile. And guys, I could have gone ahead to actually structure this whole project a lot better than we have here. You know, the components files are getting too much. I could have a folder for each of the pages and then have a component folder inside each page, you know. So I could have like bookmarks folder in here, and then in that bookmarks folder I could have a component specific to that page that will have, you know, the all the components that pertains to that page. I hope that makes sense. I could have structured it like that, and that would be a lot better than the junk that we have here, but bear with me. In the next videos, in the next projects, I'm going to do better and have a better structure than we have here. All right, so in here in the user profile, I want to get the, you know, I want to have the following of the user, the followers, the profile picture, and the ability to, you know, update the profile picture as well, and all that. Okay, so I want to have those first, and then we will get on to actually fetch the user's posts. Right, so here let's get into the user profile. Let's go ahead and have a state for the user. So const user and then set user. We are going to have use state, of course, and it's going to be an empty object initially. All right, so what I want to do is to go ahead and actually fetch the user from the database. So get user from DB. So get user, which is the function, and it should be a synchronous function, of course. You have our try catch, and in case of any error, I'll just log that in a console, right? And of course, we need Axios, so response await Axios, which should be automatically imported, and there's a get request to our API. So import meta env API with API URL, and we want to go to slash users slash this specific user which we want to get. All right, now remember in this page we actually have the ID from the params. Okay, so what we want to do is to actually grab that ID. So I'll say ID, which is what we called it in the app.js, if you can remember that. Right now we are going to the profile page and we want to get this ID. That is the ID, and I could go ahead to actually rename it to be user ID, and I'll say use params from React router DOM. Okay, so we go to users and then we get the ID right here of the user we want to grab. Since this route is actually protected, we have to say with credentials
true, and then passing authorization of bearer token. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually bring in our token. Use selector, takes in a function, state user, current user, and then token. All right, so we have the token, and that is what we are using to actually access the user via authorization. All right, now once we actually fetch the user, what I want to do is to set the user to be the new user that we just had from the response. So response data is going to be the new user, and I actually want to go ahead and have some more states here because we are going to set some things as well. So I'll say follows user and set follows user. That's going to be user followers enclose the logged in user. So let's go ahead and actually bring in the logged in user here as well. You know what, I'm going to bring the token up, duplicate that to get the logged in user. So I'll say current, or I'll do logged in user, and that'll be the current user ID. Right, so if the user that we got has the ID, or the followers of that user that we just got has the ID of the current logged in user, then that means we actually follow that person. I hope that makes sense. All right, now the next thing I want to have here, the next state I want to have is the avatar. Set avatar, and initially it's going to be user profile photo. All right, so once we fetch and we set the user, we want to also set follows user, and that will be response data followers includes and then logged in user. And lastly, I'll set avatar to be response data profile photo. Beautiful. All right, so that is it for the get user. Of course, this is not going to work unless we actually make sure we execute that function. So I'll say get user, and we should make sure use effect is actually imported. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and just log this in the console. That's the user, right? Just so we see how we are doing so far. So I'll go ahead and see what we have. Hopefully we do not have any errors. And of course we have Jendo right here. And if I come back home, let me remove this from the console. If I come back home, scroll down and click on Daniel Vino, we should have Daniel Vino's profile. Okay, so the user Daniel Vino has been fetched with the password, and we could actually remove the password. We do not need to show the password of the user. Okay, so let me quickly actually go ahead and make sure I'm not including the password of the user when we are getting the user. So user controller and get user, that should be down here. And so once I fetch, I'm going to select negative password. All right, so I'll save this and I'll remove this, and I'll try this again. So I'll click on Jane and we get Jane, and now we do not have the password. Perfect. All right, so now what do we want to do? Of course, we have to display the information that we got from the user on the screen. We are done with the user controller. I'll just close that. And so I'll go ahead and in here in the return, so in here I'll have a section with a class of profile. I'll have the container class here. So let me actually just have profile underscore container. And in here I'll have a form that will not have any action for now. Let me actually give this a class name of profile. Come on, profile image. And I'll add an enc type because we will be updating the profile picture from here. So multi-part form data. And lastly, I'll have on submit of change avatar handler. So let me have that function right here. Change avatar handler. The synchronous function, of course. Perfect. Right. Now inside the form, I'm going to have a label. First, let me have an image. So the image of the current logged in user. And that will be, of course, we have to enter JavaScript mode. I'm going to use backticks, and that will be user profile photo. I'm going to leave the alt empty, and close this. Below the image, I'm going to have a label with HTML4 of avatar, and I'm going to give it a class name of profile underscore image edit. Inside the label, I'm actually going to have an icon that will be lu upload, and I should have this in a span and pass that in, and I should make sure that's actually imported. So let's import that from, of course, React icons /lu. Below the label, I'm going to have a button with a class of profile image btn, and I'll have fa check. I'll give this a type of submit, and below the button I'm going to have an input with a type of file, and I'll give it a name of avatar and an ID that should match, the ID that we have here. So the ID should be avatar as well. I'll give it an onChange prop of e because it takes in a function here. So the event, I'll say set avatar to e.target dot files, and we are getting the very first file that we have in the files array. Now right after that, I'm going to say set avatar touched, which is a state setter. I'm going to set that to be true. So let's actually go ahead and actually have the state. Wait a minute. I'm going to go ahead and cut this and actually bring that in here. Perfect. Right now, I'm going to have an accept prop as well, and we'll have PNG, JPG, and then JPEG. Okay, so that is it so far with the avatar thing. And so I'll go ahead and actually have this state up here. So const, and I'll have the setter function, and also that will be avatar touched. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and remove this. It should be equal to use state, and initially it's going to be false. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in this icon. That's the check icon. So I'll just paste in that, and this should be coming from Font Awesome. And right here, before the label, what I want to do is to check. First off, let's see what we have. Okay, so I'll just save, and right here you can see that we have it, but then we have this check. Okay, and I need to first check if avatar touched
is false. Okay, if that is the case, then we want to show the label. Otherwise, we want to show the button, the check button. Okay, so if the avatar is not touched, then I want to show the label, which is going to enable us to actually select an image. Otherwise, then we know that it is touched, right? And so we want to show the button with the check icon so that we can actually submit the form. I hope that makes sense. All right, so here you can see that we have the label, which is going to enable us to actually select the image. But then once we select an image, then we have the check. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's proceed and actually continue. Now, after the form, I'm actually going to have an h4, which is going to say the name of the logged in, the name of the user. And below that, we are going to have a form. And below that, I'm going to have a small tag. And that is also going to have the email. Now, below this, I'm actually going to have on other list, so UL with a class name of profile followers or follows. Let's keep it like that. The list item, the first one is going to have an h4, where it's going to say user following length, so the number of people that we are following, and we'll say following. I'll go ahead and duplicate this 2 times. So we have followers, which should be followers the length, and lastly we'll have the likes, the number of likes, and for that I'll just put a fixed number for now. So let's save this, and this is what we have. Perfect. Let me just refresh this. Yeah. Okay, so far Jendo has no following, no followers, and 0 likes. Perfect. Now below the other list, I want to have 2 action buttons. Okay, the first one is going to be a button that is going to be a follow or unfollow button. So if we are already unfollowing this person, then we can have unfollow. Otherwise, we will have follow. I hope that makes sense. And then a second button that is going to take us to the message chats. Okay, so that we can message this person directly. Now for the follow or unfollow, I want to make it in such a way that if we are on our profile, so if we come on our own profile, then we want to have edit profile instead of the follow unfollow button. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's just go ahead and do this. That will explain itself a little more. So let's have a div with a class of profile actions wrapper. Let's check if user ID is equal to the logged in user ID. Okay, I should name that logged in user ID, not just logged in user. Where is it? Logged in user ID. Okay, so you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and select wherever we have that and say logged in user ID. All right, so here I'll just remove it here. So if the current user who we have fetched, if that person's ID is equal to the logged in user's ID, then we know that we are on our own profile page, right? And in that case, we want to show the edit button. So I'll have a button, the class name of btn, and on click, I'll have open edit profile model, which is a simple function we'll have very soon. And in that, I'll say edit profile. Okay, so that is the first part of the if. Otherwise, or the ternary operator. Otherwise, I'm going to have a button. I'll have an on click on that button that will say follow unfollow user, which is a function that we have very soon. I'll give it a class name of btn and a dark. So in here, between the closing and the opening of this button, I want to say if the follows user is true, then we are going to have unfollow. Otherwise, we are going to say follow. Perfect. So I think that is it. Let's see what we have. Of course, we have to have these functions, these two functions. Otherwise, we are going to have errors. So I'll have const and paste that. I don't think there's going to be a synchronous. So let me just have this simple function. I'll duplicate that and have the second function, which is this follow and follow. I'll just paste that. All right. So let's save and see what we have. And this is what we have. What is the message? Okay, so let's have the message button as well, which should actually be a link. So here I'm going to check if the user ID is equal to the logged in ID. If so, then I want to have a link. Or actually, if it is not equal to the, the logged in user ID, then we can actually message this person. Okay, it wouldn't make sense for us to message ourselves, right? So let's have a link coming from React Router DOM, and they should be going to, let's have a backtick here. They should be going to messages slash and then the user ID. So user underscore ID. Right now, let's go ahead and actually give this a class name of btn and default, and let's close this. Right, so we save this, come back, and since we are on our own profile, remember we are logged in as Jane Doe, and since we are on our own profile, we do not see it. But then if we get onto some other person like Daniel, we can actually see the message button. Okay, and you can see the follow button here as well. Perfect. Now the last thing I want to have below this div is an article tag with a class of profile underscore bio, and I'll just have a paragraph in here and say user bio. All right, so we save this, come back, and no bio yet. But if we come here to Jane's page, for some reason this is not working. But if we come here, we can actually see Jane's bio, right? But if we come here, and I'm trying to click this, but it's not working for some reason. What could that be? Let me just go ahead and try. Okay, that worked, but the page had to refresh. Let me go ahead and try that one more time. Of course, if I click from here, it should take me there. But then if I try to go from here, it takes me there as well. But why is it that if I am on a different person's profile and I try to come here, it doesn't work? Okay, it is because we are not refetching. So what I'm going to do is right here, the get user, for this use effect, I'm going to have the ID of this. So the user ID, I'm going to pass that in the dependency array. So basically, once the user ID changes, I want to refetch the new user that we are trying to get. Okay, so I'll go ahead and try this one more time. I'll come to someone's like Daniel, come to that person's profile, and now if I click this, I should have this user. Okay, perfect. All right, so the next thing we want to do is to actually be able to change the user avatar. Okay, so let's actually work on that real quick. So here I'm going to prevent default. So let me pass in an event here and prevent default. Below that, let's have a try catch. Of course, I'm actually going to set avatar attached to be true, and here I'll say post data should be equal to new form data. And so post data is going to have an avatar, and then response is going to be await axios, a post, import, meta, vid, users, avatar. Of course, this route is protected, so you'll say with credentials should be true, and we'll pass in our bearer token in our headers, authorization of bearer token. Perfect. All right, so once we have a response, what do? We are going to actually dispatch, and I don't think I have a dispatch here, so let me just close the sidebar here. So let's say dispatch should be equal to use dispatch, and so you say dispatch user actions, and that should be coming from, let's import user actions from, we go into our store, user slice, and you get user actions from there. So let's dispatch user actions, change current user, and we are going to change the profile picture. Okay, so I'll just spread whatever we had in the state, and I'll go ahead and change the profile photo, and that will be the response data profile photo. Of course, for this to actually work, we have to bring in the current user from the React store. So current user, and I'll just remove the ID from here. Perfect. All right, so I think dispatch, I think that is it. And actually I'll just navigate the same page. So let's bring in navigate as well. Navigate, use navigate, and I think this part of the tutorial is very boring, but you just have to bear with me, and it will get exciting very soon. What could be the problem? Request failed with status 403. Okay, let's just go ahead and log back in and see what happens. Jane@gmail.com, Jane123, the password. Let's go to Jane's profile, and yeah, so now I think we should be able to actually update our profile. So I'm going to choose this, what should I even use for this? I'm going to choose this lady right here, and I'll submit. And it seems like nothing is really happening. Let me just go ahead and refresh. Okay, so that didn't work. What could be the problem? Okay, so that didn't work because of course we are not passing in the post data. Okay, there's a post request and we are submitting the image that we want to update, and so we need to pass in the post data before the options. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually save this and try this one more time. I'll go ahead and select maybe a different image. I'm going to use this lady right here, and I'll submit this, and hopefully this works. I'll just go ahead and refresh, and it didn't work. In case of any errors, I'll go ahead and actually log that in the console. And right here, this should be set. Okay, we should set the avatar to the avatar state that we have. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually try this out. I'll go ahead and select the same. You know what? Let me just select the robot. Okay, so that we know we are actually selecting a different image. And okay, that works. Perfect. Let me go ahead and refresh this. Once we dispatch, then this should actually be updated as well, and it wasn't updated. So let's go back into our navbar and actually make sure we are not having any issues there. Profile photo. And you know what, instead of just fetching what we have from the store, which is coming from the local storage, and from here we are not actually updating it in the local storage. So what I'm going to do, and I think the most reasonable thing to do here, is to just get rid of this, and instead I'm actually going to make a request to the database and fetch the user. Okay, so I'll have get user from db. So get user, synchronous function of course, and I'll have my try catch. In case of any errors, I'll just log that in the console, and here I'll just make a request. Let's await axios dot get, and we are going into wait a minute, let's import meta env. That will be vid api url users and the user id, right? And I'll just have a state here, state of user, set user, and we'll say use state. So set user of response data. Right, so now down here, instead of just profile, I'll have user and show call that function here. Of course, we need to pass in our credentials. So with credentials is going to be true, and our headers as well. We need authorization of bearer token. Do we have our token in here? Yes, we do. Perfect. Yeah, so now we actually do have we have our user profile in our avatar. Perfect. In our navbar, sorry. Okay, so let's get back to the user profile here. Now I want to take care of this before we forget. So open edit profile modal. Once we call that, I want to dispatch UI slice actions, which should be coming from let me just duplicate this. So UI slice actions, that will be coming from the UI slice, simple as that. And so I'll dispatch open edit profile modal. That's the function I want to dispatch here. Okay, let me now let's work on the follow on follow. Okay, which is an asynchronous function, because we are making a request to the database, or we are going to talk to the API, which in turn is going to talk to the database. I'll have this console log in case of any error. And here we want to make a request. Let's say axios, there's a get request or import beta env. vt API URL, and this is to users slash the user ID of the person we want to follow. Okay, so of the person whose page we are on. Okay, remember we can actually go ahead and click on anyone, and in this case we are logged in as Jendo, but we come here and we can be able to follow or unfollow any user. Okay, so slash follow unfollow. We want credentials to be true, and we pass in the authorization of bearer token. So that is it. And once we make that request, we are going to set follows user to be response data followers logged in user. If so, then you get what I mean. All right, so let's go ahead and actually try this. We're actually calling this on this button right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and click follow, and once we follow, nothing happens. But if I refresh, wait a minute, what error do we have? Oh, okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and actually correct that real quick. Is it UI slide actions? Okay, so UI slice actions right here. So right here, UI slice actions plural. All right, so I'll reload this and come back here, and let's see what happens. Oh, actually, I'll come here, and now let's go ahead and send this request one more time, and we've been able to actually follow this person. Okay, so if I go ahead and check the database in the users, remember we are logged in as Jendo, so Jendo right here should be having one following, and that should be the ID of the person she is following, and this ID should be Daniel. So if we come down here, you can see that Daniel actually is being followed. So the followers for Daniel has one ID here and one down here as well. Okay, and this ID should actually, one of these IDs should actually match Jendo's ID, which is this one. Okay, now if I go ahead and unfollow and come back and refresh the users collection, then you can see that follow right here, the followers array has been reduced. Okay, and here you can see that the following array is empty as well. I hope that makes sense. All right, so we can now follow and unfollow users. Okay, we can now follow and unfollow users, and you can see that we have that one follower for for Daniel, and that is why we have one follower here. Okay, if I follow, then we are going to have two, and that should actually update automatically. So to make that happen, what I'm going to do is actually have, let me bring this down here. I have the follows user and the avatar. I have those in the dependency array as well. So now if I unfollow, they should automatically update. Perfect. And then if I follow, it should be updated as well. All right, now of course if we click the message, it brings us to the messages page where we are going to have the chat system later on. But then let's go ahead and finish up with the profile. So we want to be able to fetch the user posts as well. Okay, and so let's go. I think we are completely done here with the user profile component. So let's come back here in the profile, And what I want to have below this is actually the header info, which is a component we had earlier. Header info component right here, and it takes in the text, backtext, and I'll say user full name. So if we have Daniel, then we are going to say Daniel's posts, right? And that is what I want to have. Of course, we should make sure that is actually imported. So let's import header info. All right, so I'll save that. And what issues do we have here? User is not defined. Okay, so here too, of course, we are going to fetch the user. So set user, users use state, and it's going to be an empty object initially. And of course, I want to make that same request that we made earlier. So let me just copy that. Actually, I'll just go ahead, and for the get user, I'll just copy from here, paste it in here. And so of course you have use effect, takes in the function and the dependency array, which should be empty at least for now. Get user, we need the user ID, so let's go ahead and actually bring that in as well. So let's get the user ID, use selector, takes in a function, we need a state, we need a token as well, so let's bring that in. And what else? I think that's it, right? Of course we need to import Axios, and yeah, I think that's it. So let's go ahead and refresh this, and boom. All right, now we should actually be able to update, we should be able to update our names, okay, which we are going to do very soon. But basically you can see that we have this, right? Of course, if I go to someone else's page, then we are going to have what is going on here? We have an error, guys. We have a huge error. So let's go to the, wait a minute, set followers. All right, so just these things that we have here, we just have to remove them, that's all. All right, so I'll go ahead and actually come back to Daniel's page, and now what is happening? This should be Daniel's posts, right? So set, that would be, oh, you know what, this is a logged in user that we are making the request to fetch that user, okay? And it shouldn't be this, it should be the user whose ID is in the params, right? So of course here they should actually not be coming from the store, but rather the use params, okay? And we are getting the ID from the use params, but we can go ahead and actually rename it to be user ID. So now we have it, perfect. All right, so as I said, I want to get all the posts that belongs to this particular user, okay? And to do that, of course, we have to go ahead and make a request. I'll say get user posts. User posts is going to be a synchronous function. Set is loading is going to be true here. And so let's go ahead and actually have those states. First, I'll have user posts, set user posts, use state, and it's going to be an empty array initially, and then you have a loading, and it's going to be false here. So set is loading here is going to be true, and then you try catch. In case of anything, I'll just log that in the console. But in here, response will await Axios dot get get, because there's a get request, and I'll just copy everything that we have in here. Okay, just copy all that and paste it in here, the ID / posts. Right, so now if we save this, and of course we have to say get user posts here in the use effect. So if I save this and actually log this in the console, that's the user posts. Let me actually set this loading to be false here. You know what, of course we are not setting the user posts, we are not updating the user post. Okay, so user post, say user post should be the response data. All right, so now we do actually have the user's posts, and that should be here, which is being populated. We are fetching the user, but then we are populating the post that belongs to that particular user. And you can see that Jane Doe actually has 3 posts so far. All right, so now if we come to Daniel's page, we should actually have Daniel's posts as well, but then it's going to be only 1. Okay, which is just right here. All right, so of course we should go ahead and actually show the posts on the page. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and actually have a section with a class of profile posts, and I'm going to go ahead and map through the user posts. Okay, but first I want to check if user posts length, basically the array that we are getting back, if it is less than 1. If so, then basically the user doesn't have any posts, right? And so in that case, I'll have a paragraph and give this a class name of center, and I'll say no posts by this user, or you can say no posts found for this user. Otherwise, then we are going to of course map through the user posts. So user, this should be a question mark, of course. So user posts the map, let me actually have a question mark. So user posts the map, for each iteration I'm going to say post, and I'll bring in the feed components, okay, for each iteration. Now the key is going to be the post ID, so post underscore ID, and I'll pass in the post itself as a prop, and I'll have on delete prop as well. So on delete post, I'll say delete post, which is a function that we should have. So let's go ahead and actually have the function delete post, a synchronous function of course, and it's going to be empty for now. Guys, you know what, here since I'm actually getting the user from the get user posts, you know, once we get the user, we actually have all the user details, and then we have the populated posts of the user. Okay, so I don't think I need to get the user separately, but I can go ahead get the user with the user posts, and then I can go ahead and say you know, I can go ahead and say set user to be the response data, which has everything the user has, but the user posts is actually going to be the response data dot posts. I hope that makes sense. All right, so that should actually give us the array in that user, you know, and that is the data that we are getting back from the database. So I'm going to remove this get user, and we should be good. All right, so once I come back, we have no issues. If I refresh, you can see that we have no issues right here, and we do have the posts of that particular user. Okay, and in this case, Daniel has only one post, but then if we come to our page, and that is in Jane Doe's case, Jane has 3 posts. I hope you get it. All right, so let's move on and work on the delete post. Let's have our try catch. Let's log in the console in case we have any errors, and the response will await Axios, and this is a delete method. Okay, so a delete request, we need to import our vite URL, vite API URL. Come on, vite API URL, and we are going to post, but then we need the ID of the post we want to delete. Okay, so how do we even get that? We are going to find out. So post ID, of course, with credentials is going to be true. You have our headers, and that will be authorization of bearer token. Perfect. All right, now we should actually have the icon here that we can click to actually be able to delete or update, and that should be in the feed. So I don't know why we do not have that. And actually, once we delete, I want to set posts or set user posts. Yeah, that will be user posts filter. I'll have p for each iteration, and I'll say p dot id. Okay, now I should have this post ID that I will be taking in, and I think this should be it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove this user state, and actually let me keep it. It should be here. Okay, we are using it, so I'll just keep it. All right, now what should we do? Let's go to the feed right here, and as I said, we should have a menu that on click we can right here. So show feed header menu. If that is true and the user ID is equal to the post creator, then we are going to show this menu. I don't know if it is post creator or post creator ID. Let me check real quick. So basically, if we are on this page, that's on the profile page, and we are fetching our own post, we should have that icon that we can click to actually have the edit and delete options, or the delete and edit buttons right here. And for some reason we do not have it. Okay, if I should go ahead and remove all these, and remove this as well, the curly braces. What is the problem? Let me check. Show edit post model is not defined. All right, so let's go ahead and have these functions, that delete post and show edit model, or show edit post model. Let's have those two functions right here. I have that, and the second one is what? Come on. The second one should be down here as well. Delete post. Do I have that? I don't. And that will be on delete post, right? So let's bring in on delete post, which is coming from the, which is coming from here on delete post. Okay, so on delete post, I'm going to have a delete post function. Delete post. Right, so let's save this as well. Refresh. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so now we do have the edit and delete buttons. Okay, but for the show edit post modal, I'll say dispatch. We should have, of course. So let's bring in dispatch from use dispatch, and that should be imported right here. And we are trying to dispatch from the UI slice actions. Open edit post modal, and we'll pass in a post ID, and we'll close feed header menu. I think I'll actually improve on this, but for now let's just keep it this way. And this close feed header menu should actually be a function as well. So let's have that. And we'll just say set show feed header menu. We just set that to be false, right? And I think that's it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually delete a post, and to do so we just have to say on delete post, we just pass in the post ID, and we'll close feed header menu, and so we should be able to delete posts. But then my styles are not working here, and that's perhaps because of some missing classes. So I'm just going to go ahead and here, yep, so this is how it should look like. And so where's the button though? I don't have the button. Now I'm going to have a button down here below the menu. So I'll say user ID, if that is equal to the post creator, and the location path name includes users. Then I want to have a button with on click prop of set show feed header menu, and that will just be the opposite of show feed header menu. So it will be a toggle, and I'll just go ahead and close this. And in here I'll have my icon, so hi dot horizontal, and that should be it. Of course I should go ahead and bring in that no UI slice. I don't need that here. Let's import this from React icons slash what hi. Yeah, I think that's it. What could be the issue? And right here, since we are invoking this, we should pass this as a function before we actually set it. I hope that makes sense. So now let's see what we have, and we should have the dots. Oh, of course I should close the parenthesis here, and then right here it should be removed from here. Okay, so that was a big mistake. And now we do have this. Of course we do want the icon instead of that gibberish that I put there. So I'll pull back the icon. All right, so that is it. And of course, on click, we do have the edit and the delete. Now, if I click on this, nothing happens because we do not have the edit post modal just yet. But then if I try to delete this post, let's see what happens. And the post has been deleted. If I refresh, that post is never coming back. And you know what, later on I'm actually going to have the edit and delete as icons, okay? And I'm actually going to remove this later on as well, but I just want to follow the way I did it earlier before later on I'll actually go ahead and work on that, right? So up here I'll actually set this to be false. So initially it's going to be false, and once we click it, then we are going to show it. The next two things I want to do here is to be able to, of course, edit a post and also be able to actually edit a user profile. Okay, edit my own profile. So the logged in user should be able to edit his or her profile. All right, and these are going to be modals. And so let's go ahead and actually create edit post modal.jsx and also create edit profile model.jsx. And I think since we are working on the post, let's work on the edit post model right away. Now we want to know the post which we are trying to update. Okay, so right here, that is show edit post model, you can see that we dispatch an action, and in this dispatch we are actually passing in the post ID, which is a payload that we are getting right here, and we are saving that in the, so right here, open edit post model, we are getting the ID as well, okay, in the store. And with that ID we can actually go ahead to be specific on which post we want to actually edit. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually get that ID from the store. So edit post ID, and that should be use selector, text in a function, so stay UI edit post ID, right? And I'm actually going to go ahead and bring in the token as well. So the user token should be coming from the user, but this time current user, and I want the token. Nice. All right, now what I want to edit on a post is only the body. Okay, I don't want to touch the thumbnail or the image attached to the post. If you want to edit your thumbnail, then you have to just go ahead and create a new post. I hope that makes sense. All right, so for the body, it's going to be empty initially, but then we want to go ahead and fetch the post which we want to update. We want to go ahead, fetch that post, and then get the body from that post. Okay, and we're actually going to update that in here, but initially I just want it to be blank. And so let's go ahead and say get post to update. Come on, so get post, of course, an asynchronous function. Let's have our try catch. In case of anything, I'll just log that in the console. So you have a response. Let's await axios.get, and we want to go to posts and then the ID of the post, so edit post ID. And of course we need to pass in some options and say with credentials should be true, and our headers authorization should be bearer token. Now once we get something back, we are going to set body, to be response data body. Perfect. All right, so basically we should have a post, right? Of course we have to make sure we invoke this function. So get post. So we should practically have a post, and once we do have a post, we're actually going to go ahead and have that in a form. Let me have a form here, give that a class of edit post, and I don't need an action, but I need on submit prop, and on submit I want to call a function update post, which we do not have yet. And so let's go ahead and create that update post and a synchronous function, and that should be enough for now. And so let me actually have on click prop as well. So on click I want to close edit post model. All right, now in the form I want to have a div with a class of edit post underscore container, and I'll have text area in here. I'll have a value of the body, and on change we'll have an event, and then set body to be the event target value, and that should be it. Okay, let me actually have a placeholder of what's on your mind, and this should actually be autofocus. So autofocus, and that's it. Okay, let me actually, below the text area I'm going to have a button of type submit. I'll have a class name. I'll have class name of btn and primary, and this should say update post. All right, so right now of course we do not have anything to show if we come to the page, and that is because we have to come to our profile component, and down here below this section I'm going to say if edit post modal open. If that is true, then I want to show my edit post modal. Right, so let's go ahead and actually bring edit post modal open from our store. So const edit post modal open, use selector state, come on, state UI, and okay, so I'll save this, and right now I think it is false. So once we click, then we should, okay, so we have an issue. What could that be? What could that problem be? Edit post model 30, edit post model, update post, we have it. Close edit post model, we do not have it. So let me actually go ahead and have that function. Let me just duplicate this, right, and have close edit post model. That should not be asynchronous. Let me remove that. So now we do have our modal. Okay, we do have our modal, and of course on click outside of the card we should be able to close the modal. So this function right here, so we say if it takes in an event, of course. So if event target class list, if that contains a date post, then we want to close it. Okay, we want to close the modal. So we say dispatch, come on, we will dispatch UI slice actions, and we will say close edit post modal. Right, hopefully I have everything perfect. And so once I click outside, nothing works. perhaps we do not have dispatch. So let's go ahead and, yeah, we don't have it. Let's go ahead and bring in dispatch. Use dispatch from right here, React Redux. Make sure you're calling the, okay, yeah, of course we have to call it. All right, so now that actually works. And for any post, you can see that we actually fetch the exact post body that we want to update, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and work on the update post because you know what, here I should have the update post function, okay, and that is for a reason. So let's go ahead and have update post an asynchronous function, and we are going to try catch. In case of any errors, I'll just go ahead and log that in the console, and let me just copy this, paste it down here. There's going to be a patch request, and of course right after this we need to actually pass in the data that we want to update our post to, and in that case we are actually going to pass in the data and the post ID as well. And I think that should be it. Actually, that should be it. Okay, so if the response status is equal to 200, once we update and we have a response from the server and the status is 200, we want to say updated post should be equal to the response data, and set user posts to be user posts, and we are going to map through that. When we say post, if updated post ID to string, if that is equal to post ID to string as well here, to make sure it matches. If that is the case, then I want to say post body should be equal to updated post dot body. Let me just return post. All right, so I think that is it for the update post function. Now let's go ahead and actually pass this as a prop. So on update post, we'll call update post function. Sorry, update post. Where is the function? All right, so back in the edit post model, we have to go ahead and actually destructure the update post function, and right here, oh sorry, we have to destructure that on update post. So in this function we want to say post data, and that should be equal to new form data, and we say the post data dot set body, and on update post we want to pass in the post data and edit post ID, right? And once everything is done, we are going to dispatch UI slice actions, close edit post model. All right, so yeah, of course, perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and actually try this out. I'm going to edit the first post. Okay, so this is my very first post, and it has been edited. All right, so let's go ahead and send this or make this request, and we have a giant error. This return here. for some reason we have an error around that place. So here's where the problem is. I'll just go ahead and remove that optional chaining. And yeah, let's go ahead and try this one more time. All right, so let's go ahead and actually try editing this. So I'll just add some gibberish and then hit update post, and the post has been updated here. Let's see what we have in the database as well. Let's refresh. Okay, so it has been updated here as well, as you can see. Okay, so that is working perfectly. Of course, I can go ahead and remove that and add some exclamation marks, and that has been updated here as well. If I come back and refresh in the database, yeah, it's been updated here as well. Perfect. All right, so the next thing, I think that's it actually. Of course, I can go ahead and delete it, and that works. I can update this as well, and if I update, that works instantly. I come here, refresh. This first one should be gone because we deleted it, but the second one should be updated, as you can see, and everything is working perfectly. Okay, so I think we should hop on to the edit of the profile. So edit profile, I'm just going to close this edit post model and then get into the edit profile model. All right, so here what I want to do is to, first of all, I'm going to have user data, set user data, use state of course, and it's going to be an object. You will have full name, empty string, and the bio of an empty string as well. I'm going to bring in my dispatch, and what else? I want to bring in the token. Just like the post, we want to get the user from the database. Okay, so let's get user from DB. So get user, a synchronous function, of course, and let's try catch. In case of anything, I just want to log that in the console. Response, let's await Axios, and there's a get request because we are getting the user. Let's import our API URL. So vit API URL, and we want to get the user. You know what? Let me just go ahead and actually get the ID of the user from the store as well. And that's what we are going to have in here. Perfect. Of course, there's a protected route. So with credentials is going to be true. We need our headers, and we only want to say authorization should be bearer token. So bearer, and we'll pass in our token. Once we get something back, we are going to set user data to be the response data. Perfect. All right, now with use effects, we can invoke this function. The dependency array is going to be empty, and I'll say get user. Perfect. Now once we have a user, we are going to have a form just like for the post. Let's have a section with a class of edit profile, and on click we're going to pass in a function, and we will say close model, pass in the event as well. Now let me just go ahead and have this function close model, Now in this section, we are going to have a div with a class of edit profile, edit profile underscore container, and I'll have an h3 that says edit profile. Below the h3, I'm going to have a form, no action needed, but I'm going to have on submit, and on submit I want to update user, which is a function that I should have here as well. Update user, which is an asynchronous function actually. Now in the form, I'm going to have an input. The type is going to be text. I'm going to give it a name of full name and value of user data, full name, and on change I'll just have a function for this. So change user data, and for a placeholder I'll say full name. So let's have the function change user data as well. Change user data is not going to be asynchronous. Right below the inputs, I'm going to have a text area. The name is going to be bio. I'll give it a value of user data dot bio, and on change I'll say change user data. I'll give it a placeholder as well of bio. Lastly, I'll have a submit button, so button with the type of submit, and let's give that a class name of btn and primary, and it should say update. Okay, of course nothing here for now. That's because right here, okay, so we don't see anything. So of course, just like we did here, I'm going to duplicate this, and there should be edit profile modal open, and they should have the edit profile modal. Of course, I'm not going to pass in this. Actually, I'm not going to pass in any prop at all, but let's go ahead and actually bring this in. No, let me just duplicate this and I'll paste edit profile modal open, edit profile modal open. Okay, so if it is true, then we are going to have that, right? So let me click and we have it. I click out, nothing happens because we do not have that close function done right here. So let's go ahead and actually have this function. So just like the post modal, I'll say if event, let me pass in that event, if event target dot class list contains a class of edit profile, then I want to close the model. So dispatch UI slice actions and close edit profile model. Oh, it should be close edit profile. Yeah, close edit profile model, and we will invoke that function or that reducer. All right, so now when I click out, I should be able to close it. Beautiful. All right, so let's go ahead and actually work on the change user data and then work on the update user data as well. So for the change user data, I want to set user data to be, of course, this is going to take in a function because I want to do this based on the previous state, and I'll say return a new object whereby I spread out the previous state and say target event target name should have the event target value. All right, so now let's go ahead and actually update this user. And so I'm going to have a try catch. console.log in case of any error, and I'll paste this. It's a patch request, of course, and we are going to the users /edit. Okay, we don't need to pass in the ID of the user because the logged in user is the person we want to update. We cannot go ahead and update just anyone. And if you watched the backend tutorial or the server side, then you should understand what I'm talking about. But I think that should be it. Actually, that should be all to actually update. So once we are done, I'll just go ahead and close the model. All right, so of course we should pass in the data, so user data. Right, so let's go ahead and actually test this out. For Jendo, I'll just, oh come on, what is the problem here? Proof state is not defined. Right here, of course, let me get the previous state. Yep, I think that's it. So for Jendo, I'll go ahead and say Jendo. What is wrong? Event is not defined. 45, of course, my bad. Hopefully we do not have any more bugs. So I'll say Jendo here, and here I'll say this is Jendo's bio, and I'll hit update. And of course, as you can see, our profile has been updated. Okay, so the name is different and the bio has been updated as well. Perfect. And I think that is it, okay, for the user profile page. I think that is all we need to do here. As I said, I'll come back to actually have two buttons, edit and then delete for the posts. But for now, we can move on to actually, add some users as friends and all that. Okay, so let's have the widgets part here. So let's hop into our widgets component. I don't know if so we have widgets here, and here I'm just going to have a section with a class of widgets, and inside this section I'm going to have a component. So let's create that. I'm going to call that friend requests plural .jsx rafce. And let me actually close these. I don't think I need them anymore, so I'll just close the profile, the navbar, and even the home. Okay, right, so let me bring in that friend request component, and let's get into the friend request component to work on this. Okay, so basically we are going to have the friends here, and then down here we are going to have some chats. I'm first going to have a state here. I'll call that friends, and then set friends for the setter function. Use state, and it's just going to be an empty array initially. Now below that, I'm going to have the current user ID. So I'll say user ID and use selector, of course. Coming from use selector should be imported automatically, but it's not. So let's get use selector from React Redux. Why was that not imported for me? All right, of course it takes in a function. Let's have the state and user, current user, and then ID. Okay, so that's the ID of the current logged in user. Let's actually get the token as well, because we are going to fetch some users from the database. So let's go ahead and actually do that right now. I'll say get friends or get people from DB. Then get friends, or should I say get people? I'll just say get friends. It's going to be an asynchronous function, of course. I'll have my try catch. In case of any error, I'll just go ahead and log that in the console. So response await Axios. Why are these things not getting imported by default? So let's bring in Axios from Axios. So Axios.get, and of course let's bring in the vit URL. So vit API URL /users. So I'm just getting some users from the database. Of course, with credentials is going to be true. Let's pass in authorization of bearer token, and that's it, right? Perfect. Now, of course, we are going to fetch all the users, including us. Okay, so including the logged in user, we are going to fetch just everybody from the database. And I actually limited that to 10 people, but let's just say if we don't have that many people in the database, then we are going to be included. So what I'm going to do is to actually filter myself out. So basically, I, the logged in user, I'm going to be filtered out. And so I'll say, first of all, let me have people be equal to await response dot data. And once we have that, I'm going to say filter person, and I'm going to check if the person followers. So not, okay, so whatever I'm doing here, if it is opposite, right? So if the person followers includes, you know what I want to do here is to actually make sure that I don't get the people that I have already followed. So if I've already followed somebody, so if I've already followed somebody in the, in the users that we are getting, then I'm not going to show that person. I want to filter those people out, right? So if that includes, if the followers includes the user ID, so the current logged in user, then that means I've actually followed, this person. And so, and the person's ID or underscore ID is not equal to the user ID, then I want to show the people. I want to return the person. All right, so let me explain this well. I'm getting everyone, okay? So response data is going to give me all the people from the database, although I limited that to 10 people from the backend. So what I'm doing here is to make sure I don't show people that I already follow, okay? So if the followers of the person that I'm getting includes my ID, then that means I already follow this person. And so I do not want to show that person. Okay, I want to filter that person out. And also, I do not want to show myself in the list. I hope that makes sense. So whoever is not being followed and whoever is not me, I want to return that person. And these are the people that I want to actually display. Okay, so down here, I'm just going to say set friends, and I'm going to pass in people, right? And that should be it. All right, so let's have a use effect, of course, to invoke this function. And I hope you guys understand what I'm doing here. So get friends and we call that function. All right, perfect. So down here, what I want to do is to actually map through and display the people that I have. And so let's have a menu with a class of friend requests. And I'll have an h3 as is suggested friends. Below that, I'm just going to go ahead and map through the friends array. And for each iteration, I'll return friend request, but this time it's going to be singular. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually create that function or that component, sorry. friend request .jsx REFCE, and of course we should make sure that is imported. Now let's have a key on this, and that's going to be friend ID. Come on, I'll have friend, we go to friend, and on filter friend I'll say close friend badge. Okay, now let's have this close friend badge function. And here I'll say set friends, passing friends dot filter friend, and I'm going to check if the friend ID is equal to, or is not equal to, the ID that we are going to pass in. They want to return friend. So basically we want to be able to remove some badges, okay, and you're going to understand that very soon. And yeah, that is it for now. Let's actually move on to the friend request component. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and destructure the props that we passed. So friend, and on filter friend, you can call it on delete friend, whatever, but I'll just keep it as it is. Let me have our token. We are actually going to make a request because we want to be able to actually click a button to follow or unfollow. In this case, only follow. Okay, we want to click to be able to follow a user, right? So let me have the token right here. Now let me do something in the return, and I want to have an article tag with a class of friend. What is going on? Friend request, singular of course, and in here I'm going to have a div with a class of friend request underscore info. I'll have a link coming from React router DOM, and so of course, yeah, should be like that. Let me go ahead and actually import that from React router DOM. What? Link like that? Damn, I didn't even see that. Okay, so this should be going to, I'll use the backticks, so /users and then the ID. Okay, so friend ID, and I'll actually have an image here, and I'll have my profile image and pass in the image prop, and that should be friend profile photo, right? Now below this link we are going to, let me close this sidebar. Below this link we are going to have a div with a class of friend, and I cannot type for some reason, friend request details, and here too we are going to have a link coming from React router DOM, of course, and this should be going to, I'm going to use the backticks here, users / friend ID, so the ID of the user. In there we are going to have an h5 that says the name of the person, so full name, right? Below the link we are going to have a small tag, and I'm going to use the trim here, and remember the trim component takes in the item prop, so that will be the friend email, and I'll give it a max length of 20, and that should be it. All right, so let me just save this and see what we have so far. Of course, we have some errors. And profile image, of course, let's bring that in. Let's import profile image from profile image like that. Let's get that from our component. Trim text should be coming from the helpers, trim text, and the following arrow, trim text. All right, so as you can see, we are actually getting the people from the database. So we have okay, 5 users rather. We have Ernest Achiever, we have Jendo, we have Daniel Vignon, we have John Doe, and Daniel I. Sorry, Diana I. Now, the reason why we are not seeing Daniel is perhaps because we are already following that person, right? So as you can see, we are already following Daniel, and that is why we are not seeing Daniel here. I hope that makes sense. And if you remember, that was what I did here, right? So if we are already following that person, then we don't want to show that person, okay? And we don't want to show ourselves as well. All right, now I'll go ahead and add some buttons in here. And so let's have a div with a class of friend request underscore actions. Let's have our first button with a class of friend request actions approved. And let me have on click prop on that, which is a function that we should have. So const follow user, a synchronous function, and we have that. Now in here in the button, I'm going to have FA check. And so let's go ahead and actually bring that in from React icons. Let's import FA check from React icons /FA. I'm going to duplicate this, and it's going to be cancel and IOMD close. That's the icon I want. And this will actually take in a function on filter, and I'll pass in the ID of the friend. Perfect. So that is it, guys. That is it. Now we should go ahead and of course work on the follow user. I'll say response await axios dot get, and here we need the ID of the person we want to follow, and then slash follow on follow. That's the full route. Now of course we need to say with the credentials should be true, pass in our headers. Authorization should be bearer token. Perfect. And once that is done, I'm going to say on filter friend and then pass in the friend ID. All right, let me actually comment this. All right, so let's save this, and okay, so we have an issue perhaps. All right, let me bring in this icon. I'll just duplicate this. This should be /io. Yeah, we have it. Okay, so the styling is a little bit off. Let's correct that real quick. Oh, you know what? This should be outside of this div. Okay. All right, so we save this, and this is how it should look. Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and actually Now remember, I'm logged in as Jendo right here, and so I'm going to go ahead and, of course, I can click to actually see the profile of any user I want. I can follow or unfollow here, right? So now I am actually following this person. I can come back home and you can see that that person is gone. I can go ahead and follow John Doe, for instance, and I think they should close once we follow the person, but that did not work. Okay, that did not work, meaning we were not even able to follow the person in the first place. And so follow user, what is the problem? Do I not have Axios? All right, so let's go ahead and bring in Axios, and I'll refresh this. So I'll go ahead and try following John Doe again, and now it works. Okay, so once we follow the person, you can see that the card disappears, okay, for that person. All right, so now I'm actually following 3 people. Now let me actually go ahead and log out, and I'm going to log back in as John Doe. So john@gmail.com, that's the email. John123 is the password. And here you can actually see that although I have some people following me, I have all these people to follow. Okay, I can of course say this is John and I'm from Ghana. Okay, so that's the bio. I can go ahead and follow some people. I'm going to follow Ernest, and Ernest has been followed. If I refresh this, now this is not being updated here, but maybe later we are actually going to make it so that once we follow, that is going to be automatically updated here. Now let's have some conversations down here, basically some chats down here. Right, so with that we have to, let me go ahead and close these. So back in the widgets, we are going to have a component called message list or messages list, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to say message or messages list, whatever makes sense to you guys. Messages list, we have that already. That's interesting. All right, we do have that here already, so let's get into that. And in here I'm going to have a state conversations, set conversations, use state is going to be an empty array initially. Oh, that should be up here, not in the return, right? And I'm going to go ahead and actually bring in my token. So socket, that should be coming from the user socket. All right, so what I want to do here is to actually fetch the conversations from the database. So I'll say get conversations, and this is going to be a synchronous function, of course, since we are fetching from the API, which in turn is communicating with the database. In case of any error, I just want to log that in the console. Now I will say Axios dot, of course we need to bring in Axios. So Axios dot get. Let's bring in our API URL. So vit API URL and say conversations. That's the full route. Of course, here too with credentials is going to be true. Let's pass in authorization of bearer token, and then set conversations is going to be the response data. Beautiful. So to invoke this function, of course, we need use effect. the dependency array is going to depend on the socket, and we'll say get conversations. Right. So down here in the return, I'm going to just have a menu with a class of message list. And that's why I perhaps, you know what, let me just leave it like this. I wanted to rename this to message list. That is more um, reasonable, right? And I'll say recent messages. And in here, I'm going to just map through the conversations that we got from the database. So conversations.map, is it conversation or conversations? Conversations, guys. Yeah, perfect. So conversations.map, and for each iteration, I'll call it conversation. And I'm in turn going to render another component. Let me go ahead and actually create this message list item .jsx RAFCE. So message list item, and that has been imported. Now what could be the problem here? Token. Oh, perfect. All right, so here we need a key, of course, and that's going to be conversation underscore ID, and I'm going to pass in conversation prop, and that's going to be the conversation. Beautiful. Okay, so I think we are done here. So let's come here into the conversation list item. Here I'm going to go ahead and bring in or destructure the conversation prop. And you know what? I'm going to make use of the online users. So let me bring that in. So online users coming from the store, the Redux store. So you select the takes in a function, get a state. So state user, and then online users. Okay. Right now, here in the return, I'm going to have a link from React Router DOM, and they should be going to /messages/ and here I want to get the person that we are chatting with. Okay, the ID of the person we are chatting with. All right, so that will be conversation, and I want to get the first participant. Okay, so in the array, I want to get the 0 index, which should give me the person that I'm chatting with, and I'll go ahead and grab the ID of that person. So underscore ID. Okay, so that should give me the ID of the person that I'm chatting with, and so they should actually take me to the chat page with that person. Let's give this a class name of message list underscore item, and I'll close this link. Now inside of the link, I'm actually going to have the image of the person that I'm chatting with. So with profile image, where is the component for my profile images, I'm going to have the image prop set to be the conversation participants, and then get the 0 index here as well, which should give me the person that I'm chatting with. And I want to get the profile photo of that person. Now I'll give this a class name, and for this class name I want to actually check if this person is online. Okay, and that will be in the online users coming from the store that we've brought in here. Okay, so if that includes the conversation participants first index, then that means this person is actually online. And okay, we want to get the ID, and in that case I want to have an active class, otherwise an empty class. right? So that is with the profile image. Below that, we are going to have a div with a class of message list underscore item details, and we'll have an h5 that will say conversations. You know what? Let me just copy this because I'll be using it quite a few more times here. And here I want to get the full name. Below that, I want to get the paragraph. So I'm going to use the trim text coming from the helpers. And below this, actually, I want to give this the max length prop as well of 16. That works well. And lastly, I want to have the time. So time ago, React time ago. Okay. I think that should be it. Okay, so let's actually save this and see what we have. And so far we have no conversations here. Of course, what could be the problem though? Did I not save the widgets here? Okay, so let's go ahead and bring in the messages list, right? And save this. And okay, so this user John Doe has no messages so far, so let's log into someone else's account. I'm going to log into Jane Doe. So Jane123. Okay, so it seems Jane also has no messages. I'm going to log into Achiever. Achiever123 is the password. Wait a minute. So who actually has some conversations? I guess we do not have any conversations for now, right? So everything should be working. In case we have any bugs later, we can come and actually fix it. But I think we have everything done, right? I'm actually going to test this later on, but we do have to have the chat system. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on that here in the messages, page. So I'll come down here into the messages component. After this project, our next project is going to be a fully functioning chat system or a chat app. Okay, and so with this social media, I do not want to waste too much time on this chat system, right? And so what I'm going to do is to actually paste it, the code that we have here, and explain everything to you. But in the next project, I'm going to, of course, take my time to walk you through how to create a fully functioning chat system. Okay. And so just bear with me here. I don't want to, waste too much time on this. And so right here, we are trying to just get the other person that we are chatting. Yeah. So we are getting the other participant, right? And here we are trying to get the messages. And here we are trying to, send a message. And that's it basically. Okay, so there's not too hard to understand. Of course, if you want, you can go ahead and pause it and make sure you understand everything that's going on here. But I sincerely do not want to waste too much time on this chat because I have a project that I'm working on, and in that project we're actually creating a fully functioning chat application. Okay, maybe I'll add video call functionality and all that. All right, so that is it. Let me just go up and slowly scroll so that if you want to type this out, you can go ahead and type it out if you want. All right, so that is it. And so the next thing I want to do is to actually create this component that we are trying to get in here, and that should be in the components folder. So that's what message item.jsx. I'll do RAFCE. And what we're actually doing here, if you take a look, you can see that we actually pass in a message prop. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and get that prop message, and I'll have the current logged in user ID here. That will be use selector. I've done this a million times, right? And I want to go ahead and in the return here, I'm going to have an li. I'll give this a class name of, well, let me enter JavaScript mode here. I'll use backticks, and that will be message. And this will be messages box __ message. And then I'll have message sender. So if I'm the sender of this message, then if I'm the sender of this message, I want to have another class of sent. Okay, otherwise I'll have an empty class. Now in here in the li, I'm just going to have a p tag with the message text. All right, so let's save this and see what we have so far. Okay, so recent messages, and we have no messages for now. So how do we make this happen? All right, so what I'm going to do is to actually initiate a conversation with one of these people, and I'll say, hi Dinah, and I'll send this. Okay, so the message has been sent. All right, and now if I come back, let me just see if we have an error here, and of course we do. The server responded with status of 500, so not found. Basically conversations, I missed the S. So right here /conversations. All right, so I'll save that and refresh. What else do we have? Online users includes, it's not a function. Everything right here. Includes. I made the C here as well. Let me just refresh. What else could be the problem here? And of course, now we do actually have our conversations. Okay, so that is working. That's cool. And if we click, we can actually see the conversations that we have. Of course, everything is working exactly as expected.